What Once Was Mine, Chapter 29, Rapunzel. She awoke a little after the sun rose. Someone had very thoughtfully put a blanket over her body and a soft bunch of hay under her head. That was 3 nights outside on the ground. Up until leaving the tower, she had slept only on a bed with pillows. "Like a princess," she said a little ruefully. She stuck her nose deeper into the hay and inhaled. It smelled amazing. Sometimes she caught that scent at the end of summer, when people she couldn't see slowly turned the faraway fields from blankets of gold into patches of tan and brown. "Well, we were going to feed that to the goats, but maybe they won't want it now." Rapunzel sat up. Flynn was leaning against the side of the house, legs crossed, an ironic smile on his face. He must have been up for a while. He had obviously taken pains to wash his face and neck and arms. At least that was just all Rapunzel could see, and straighten his hair so it was parted dashingly to the side. She wondered for a moment whose comb he had borrowed, or if he had his own stashed away somewhere like his knives. He was stupidly, ridiculously handsome, even with the stupid, ridiculously fake smile on his face. Not at all the worst thing to wake up to. She suddenly felt her stomach clench. Princesses always marry princes. Or kings, if they did what they were told for the good of the family. "I'll deal with that later," she told Pascal. "What?" Flynn asked, leaning forward to hear better. "Nothing," she called out, standing up. She grabbed the quilt as she did so with a few well-practiced shakes and flourishes, folded it into precise thirds and thirds again, until she had a perfect little square to put away. "There, nice and neat." "I doubt any princesses could do that," Flynn drawled. "Oh, please," she said, sweeping by him to the cottage. Nothing could take away from her good mood. Sleeping outside was intoxicating. The sky was that bright, clear shade of blue that spoke a full day of good things and promise. She was hiding out in a red-white witch's house with her 2 friends and Pascal, and was about to learn the secret of controlling her magic hair. It appeared that everyone had been up hours before her. Whatever they had slept on had all been straightened away now. Perhaps the mats or mattresses rolled up and stored up in a cupboard. Gina's mother stood as if waiting for her just inside the door, gnarled root cane in her hand. "Ah, good morning, Sleeping Beauty. That Flynn fellow and my daughter have left to patrol the woods around us to make sure that none of these bad men chasing you accidentally slip through my spells, or are led through them by someone who knows the arts. I suppose, though, that is highly unlikely." "That Flynn fellow did not seem to have made it far," Rapunzel noted. The thought pleased her immensely. She clasped her hands decorously behind her back, and tried to sound as pleased and polite as possible. "So, after breakfast, I was wondering, if you have a moment, could you counteract my magic somehow and stop my hair from murdering people?" She wondered if that sounded too abrupt. Maybe she should have let in with something else like, "My, your goats seem healthy today, and speaking of goats—" "Child, that is the wrong question," the old woman said with a sigh. "We need to confirm my theory about the kind of magic you have so that you may learn how to work with it. Why would you ever want to get rid of your own powers?" "So I can stop murdering people," Rapunzel said wryly. "If I can control it, that would be great, but I don't want to kill anyone or anything again." "Well, then, you might as well have to cut it off all years ago, and then done with it." The good wife threw her hands in the air and waved her cane in exasperation. "But cutting my hair will kill me," Rapunzel shouted, equally exasperated. The other woman looked at Rapunzel with pity and sadness. "Poor child. How many lies did that not witch tell you? Of course cutting your hair won't kill you. It may reduce your powers until your hair grows back in fully from the root, but that is all. Whatever powers it may tap into, it is still just your hair, my dear, not your heart or your soul." "But why would Gothel lie about that too? Rapunzel could have cut her hair off years ago. She would have shaved her head and worn a wimple if it meant that she could go outside and be with other people." The good wife stood back and looked at Rapunzel's hair with a newfound seriousness. "The truth about you is all tangled like your braids, Rapunzel. bound up unnaturally. It's time to let it all down, to let it out, to let go. We must free you from the chains of your past, but first we need to free your beautiful hair. Let's go out and sit down over there. It looks like quite a job." She took Rapunzel by the arm, firmly, and led her over to a gentle hammock beneath an ancient pear tree. "Oh, I don't know if I can," Rapunzel said nervously, putting her hands to her longest braid. But whatever she was protecting the old lady from them, or them from the old lady, she wouldn't have said. "Yes, you can. You need to." The old woman lowered herself down carefully onto the soft, moss-covered ground. Biting her lip, Rapunzel reluctantly began to let down her hair. Her fingers waved like grass back and forth, undoing her braids, taking down her buns, shaking out her tresses, just like she did when she thoroughly brushed it out in the tower by herself. Rapunzel carefully laid out the pins, bands, ribbons, and charms in organized rows on the ground next to her. The old woman watched interestedly, narrowing her eyes and squinting at the bits and bobs and pieces of jewelry. "What is all this for?" she asked. "Oh, my goodness, a hand of Hamsa, how lovely! But these aren't the sorts of trinkets a young girl from around here usually sports." "I read a lot of magic, I guess. I got all of it wrong," Rapunzel said with a shrug. "I thought I could bind my hair, keep the magic in check." "Clever, but these are not quite powerful enough." Soon Rapunzel's hair spilled out around her like a silver pond, sparkling in the sunlight, or a frozen one in the moonlight. When the breeze shifted in the branches above, the sun hit her tresses, and its light scattered everywhere. The whole area where the tree was illuminated with shifting, dappled scintillations. Rapunzel wondered what it would be like from far away, from high above. Would she look like a funny star? Were all the stars out there maidens with strange hair? The old lady gasped in astonishment, sucking in her breath. "Oh my, it's all so beautiful," she said, picking up a lock. "My hair started going silver, dull silver, not like yours, when I was 16. Had a streak of it right in front. Some said it aged me, but I always thought it was rather distinguishing looking. Gave me gravitas at a young woman and men are usually sorely lacking in it." Rapunzel brightened. "So our hair is silver because of magic? Both of ours?" The old woman laughed. "No, mine went silver because my mother's family all goes gray before their time. In my case, it has nothing to do with magic. Tell me, when you killed the chickens for your mother, did you ever chant anything, or sing, or think of anything in particular?" Rapunzel nodded, reluctant to say anything about it, afraid of summoning the deathly magic. She tried to pull her hair back. The old lady lightly slapped her fingers. Rapunzel whipped her hand away to her mouth, shocked and surprised. It didn't really hurt, but Gothel never hit her. Maybe I really am a princess, Rapunzel thought with a mix of wonder and disappointment in herself. Unaccustomed to hurt by any sort that I didn't cause myself. Pillows, delicacy owning a crown, the evidence was mounting a part against her. "Your magic cannot wound me, girl," the good wife chastised. "Please. And also, while we're on the subject of hurting people, it is not murder hair. Now listen well, for here is your first and perhaps most important lesson in magic. It is neither good nor evil. It is a force of nature, a thing that just is. It is up to the person who wields it whether it's used for good or evil. Let us say your hair had the power to heal instead of kill. Even that could be used for evil. What if it kept a tyrant alive forever, always in her prime, always in her youth, always in control? A lot of people would suffer for it." Rapunzel thought about this. The good wife wasn't wrong, but she just couldn't see how the power to kill could ever be a positive thing, even if it only used it for chickens you were going to eat. "So please," the other woman said with a sigh, "keep that in mind when we get to the circle." "Circle? What circle?" "Oh, we hadn't gotten to that part yet. I forgot." The old woman chuckled to herself. Your journey to the ancient circle of stones that will hopefully shed some light on your situation and confirm that you do bear the essence of the moondrop flower. Rapunzel was torn between disappointment and excitement. On the one hand, she sort of knew deep down that answers wouldn't be as easy as just waving a magical spurtle over her hair or whatever. On the other hand, a journey, an adventure. The floating lanterns had been taken away, but replaced by this. Yes, we'll pack you up a lunch and set you off. The stones aren't far from here, but you'll miss a meal or two. Follow an old cart track up the 5 Claw Hills. Stay alert. The track dwindles in a walking path, and then nothing more than a game trail, used by bears and those who keep to the old ways. Don't worry about the bears, she added quickly, seeing the look on Rapunzel's face. You're not a child. The monstrous ones from any fairy stories you read have long ago disappeared, and their descendants fear grown men. Oh no, I was hoping to see a bear, Rapunzel explained. I've always wanted to see one, or a puppy. The old woman narrowed her eyes, but decided to ignore this. The circle sits on top of the tallest hill like a crown, hard to miss unless your mind wanders far from your feet. The boulder may be covered with moss now. It's been quite a few years since I last saw it, but it is there you may find your answers. Road to path to smaller path. Hills, stones, got it, Rapunzel said, trying to etch the directions into her mind. It was hard because she had never needed directions before, and rarely had to think in 3 dimensions. The good wife slowly stood up and held her hand out to help the younger girl up. Come, let's make a nice bag of snacks for you. Rapunzel padded over to the old lady. For the first time ever, her hair flowed freely behind her. It didn't glow with magic. It merely shone with the reflected light of the sun. She didn't even remember the protective charms and the braids and ribbons she had left behind, under the tree.